Welcome to another episode of Between the Pipes with Archie from All Everything Entertainment.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out again to episode 2 of Between the Pipes. I've got Daniel with me again this week and special guest Michaela Grant Mentis of the Toronto 6 NWHL team, the newest franchise that was added to the NWHL for the 2021 season. So we're going to go through some questions with Michaela and tune in, enjoy the show, and then after that we might have some surprises for tonight. I know Daniel's waiting to see my goal lights go off. Hopefully they go off for the right
Yep.
All right, so Michaela, I guess before we start off with the questions, I'll let you say anything if you'd like to introduce yourself, give us a little bit of what the day's been like for you today. I know you've been on Instagram, you've taken over the Toronto 6 account this morning with a day in the life of Michaela, so if you want to go ahead with that.
So my name is Michaela Grant Mentis. I'm number 13 on the Toronto 6, the new NWHL team. And I have taken over the Instagram. It's been a hectic day, all questions coming in. I'm not really a social media person, so being on it so much was kind of crazy today. And then, pretty much all I did today was work out and I went shopping. If you're on the Instagram stories, you'd see I had a Cinnabon today, so nothing too crazy.
Right on. Okay, so we'll start off with some of the questions that we had here for you, and we'll see if any of our guests that are tuning in have anything they'd like to add as well. Daniel, if you can keep a lookout for those.
Yep.
So we'll start off with the obvious. What got you into hockey? What were your inspirations?
So basically, I just wanted to play hockey to be like my brothers. My parents put me in a dancing class to start off, and I absolutely hated it. And I'd go watch my brothers' games and just be grumpy in dance class and just wanted to be on the ice with them, especially because I had a twin and we could have been doing the same things. So that's pretty much what got me into hockey, was them playing and me not being able to play. And then my inspiration was probably Matt Sundin from the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was my favorite player, hands down. Every game watched him. So that's who I looked up to as a kid.
Right on. That's amazing. That is great news and a great inspiration, that's for sure, as a Leaf fan. It's unfortunately he wasn't able to lift a cup in Toronto, but that guy dedicated 13 seasons at Toronto, and great person to base your being a role model, right? So you said your brothers, are they still playing?
They're not. They just played hockey up till the draft year and then just kind of quit after that because they were both too small to continue. So they kind of just dropped off after that.
Right on. And then you took it over. All right. So pre-game rituals, mental prep, any superstitions you've got, we hear them all the time. We hear some crazy things, from how players tape their sticks to what they eat before their meals, the type of music they listen to. What do you do?
So pre-game rituals, I don't really have any really. I just go with the flow. I'm the one person at the back of the line that kind of jokes around, plays around at the end of the line when we're doing everyone's serious and dialed in. I just kind of like to be loose. I don't like to get too into it, because then I kind of get just too amped up and it's too much for me. So I kind of like being loose and stuff. I don't really have any superstitions either, or mental. I don't really do much before games. I just kind of I play hacky sack. We play wall ball. We just like to have fun. Well, I like to have fun personally. And that's pretty much it. The only superstition I would say I have is I always chew gum, going on to warm up and then starting the game. And that's pretty much it. That's the only thing I've continued throughout my college career. So that's all I could say.
That's awesome. So you just wing it and just take the game as it comes at you. Okay. So this was actually a question that Daniel had for you, and I thought it was a great one actually here. So, with a major in criminology, do you plan on still pursuing that as a career option after or even during your hockey career?
I can't hear you right now, Archie. Like I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear any words.
Okay, let's
So I'm
try
not
this.
too sure.
Okay, can you hear me now?
No.
Just gonna try something here. 1 second. Sorry, folks. Okay, is the audio any better now?
No, I still can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we're going to try to have her rejoin us here. Give me a sec, guys. So in the meantime, while we're trying to get Michaela back in here, I'd just like to point out that I called the Pens being eliminated by the Habs, and that happened.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely called that, and they definitely. It didn't look like they showed up fully for the series. They looked like how they did right before the pandemic, and that was just off. And their goalie play was suspect, and it was weird how they couldn't play on 5, but then on the power play they showed up perfectly fine. That's where they scored most of their goals.
Yeah, and I mean it's funny because I didn't really see much of Crosby other than I think he scored in the first or second game, and he wasn't really his usual self, and neither was Malkin.
Yeah. It's crazy how all the teams that weren't supposed to be in it are basically going to make it now. Between them, the Coyotes, the Canadians, the Blackhawks are winning right now. If they keep the lead, they're eliminating Edmonton.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna try bringing Michaela back in here. Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. All right.
Awesome.
So let me just get that back in here. Okay, so Daniel's question again was, so with a major in criminology, do you plan on still pursuing that as a career option after or even during your hockey career?
Yeah, so I actually I have a double major in criminology and psychology. And although I was in 4 years of college, I still have no idea what I want to do with it. Um, Most people tell me that I do have to go back to school to get like a master's, which I'm fine with, but I do plan at some point to do it after like my second year, maybe just to get, like used to doing all this hockey stuff and traveling a lot, and then probably dip my toes into school again, and then hopefully finding a job in the field that I actually have no idea what I want to do
Yeah,
yet. So at some point, hopefully, I hope I can do that.
yeah, like a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And do you feel that having this hockey schedule now with having to work out and juggling a job in between as well, do you even have the ability to devote that time to schooling, or do you feel like it's going to have to be put on the back burner for a little bit until you kind of, like you said, get into your second year and see where it takes you?
For right now, I feel like it has to be put back there because it's so uncertain for like the hockey season of like if we're traveling on a Thursday or if we're traveling on the Friday or like when we're leaving, when we'll be coming back. And like I feel like I'd be able to do online schooling, but for most of the crim classes and psych classes, I do have to be in class, which would be pretty difficult, especially having practice at nighttime and classes at nighttime. It really wouldn't work out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of like figuring out stuff that has to go into it before I actually like enroll in school.
Yeah, makes sense. It's quite a bit to juggle here. We got Tank, our fearless leader, welcoming you to the show as well. So you touched base on this earlier. You mentioned Matt Sundin. Who did you have any other players, favorite players growing up? Any favorite teams to cheer for? I'm assuming the Leafs.
Yeah, I was a Leaf fan. I'm still a Leaf fan, even though they disappoint many, many years in a row. I'm still a Leaf fan, and Matt Sundin is my all-time favorite player. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And so you recently joined the Toronto Six. As you know, obviously the new expansion the expansion team in the NWHL. You played briefly for New York's team last year. So how was the transition? Because you finished your NCAA, went to New York, and now Toronto in such a short span. How did that all happen?
So it was Buffalo. I played in New York, but it's the Buffalo team. It's
Yeah, the Buffalo
kind of
Beats.
confusing in America, but yeah. So it was actually like we finished our game 7:30 on Saturday night for my NCAA. That's when my career ended, basically. And Sunday morning, the Buffalo Beats were calling me and my roommate to come play.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was a very quick turnaround, and we basically like just said like, why not? It's not like we're doing anything else right now other than school, obviously. And then it was like a whole week process on trying to figure out like if we would be able to play with like our visa and all this craziness. And finally, on the Thursday that we were supposed to fly out, they figured it all out. So we were able to fly down, practice in Buffalo, and then drive to New Jersey, stay there, play the 2 games, and then we had to fly back from New Jersey on the Sunday night to get to school for Monday morning. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
it was crazy, and then we had to do it again the next weekend. So it was a lot of like I was very exhausted when I got back to school on Monday, but thankfully I only had night classes, so I had the day to rest.
No, I had a question that I just thought of. Because you finished school, do they have a draft, or was it just because there was an expansion team that they had a draft?
They normally do have a draft every year, and they did have it, but because I played for the Buffalo Buttes, I was still in contract with them, so I wasn't able to be drafted. So
Now,
like
were
my
they?
contract ended.
Yeah. So you were able to just bypass the draft, and they just called you and signed you before that?
Yeah, it was like just for playoffs, like 5 games, that's all the contract was for. And pretty much like any NCAA player that was out when they needed the players is you could join at any point.
Oh, that's a cool
So
thing to know. Yeah.
yeah. There was like a deadline. I believe it was like they called us on the Sunday and the deadline was the Wednesday to add anybody to the roster. So
So now with all that's going on with COVID and whatnot, has your season been delayed at all, or do you guys start later on? Like, how's that going to work now?
our season normally starts in November, but they've pushed it back to January just because like the Toronto team, we would have to cross the border every
Yeah,
single
right.
weekend to play, and it's like right now is not really ideal to cross the border, so they just decided to push it back to just keep everyone safe and everything.
Right, because I just realized that being the only Canadian team would obligate you guys to pretty much travel every game unless you're playing home games.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
where are your home games being played?
They haven't chosen a rink yet because of COVID. Like they can't really give us times because they don't know if the younger kids leagues are going to be playing and like
Mhm.
who's taking the ice times and like when they can schedule our stuff. So they haven't announced like which rink we will be actually playing at yet.
So are you guys just practicing kind of on your own type of thing right now, or do you guys just go to local community rinks?
They have us at the Scotiabank Pond right now in
Okay, Downsview Park.
Downsview.
Yep.
So that's where a couple of us have been practicing and like a couple of people have been joining slowly. We started off with like 4 of us and now there's 8 of us every Thursday. So we've been doing that, but nothing really concrete with the whole team until the end of September.
Right on. And I know they've introduced 3 jerseys for you guys. They've got the home, which is going to be the black base jersey.
Hmm.
Then they've got the red as the away, and the alternate, which is awesome. It's got all these cool different leaves on it in the background, and they really stuck with the gold and black and red theme. What do you think about the logo?
I actually like the logo. I didn't know what it would be like, considering like our team is Toronto 6. Like, there's not much you can really do with it. But I thought they did an awesome job with the logo, the colors, and even the jerseys. Like, my favorite is the white. I'm sad that it's only our alternate jerseys,
Yeah.
but I love all of them. So I think it's going to be great when we get on the ice and wear those.
Do you know the pants? Are they going to be black, I'm assuming?
Yeah, they're black.
Oh, right on. So are any of the other women on the team past teammates of yours that you've played with in leagues before, whether it be through your NCAA career as a kid growing up or even now?
Yeah, there's 3. So I played with the goalie, Samantha Ridgewell, at Merrimack for 3 years. And then I played with Amy Curlew and Natalie Marcuzzi when I was in midget. So I played with Natalie in Mississauga and Amy in Oakville.
All
So
right
it's
on.
good getting back together again.
So just looking at some of your stats here when you were in Merrimack, and you did amazing. Like, you've got some really great numbers here. I mean, you led the team in goals, points. You had 2 4-point games with 2 goals and 2 assists against Maine. And you were even named to the East Second Team All-Star. Like, how did that feel to be able to pull all that off in such a 4 year, like, I think it was 4 years you were there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like, the last year, like I tell many people, it wasn't the best because we had so many seniors graduate. We had 13 seniors graduate the year before. So we knew going in that like we weren't going to be the strongest team, so we'd have to work hard to like basically win games. And it was a struggle for us having so many freshmen and them like taking time for them to like, understand the game and the speed and everything. We didn't really win much. Like, we only won 5 games last year, but I did have the success. Like, I put up points and everything, but like just couldn't get the team success, which kind of sucks, even though like I had individual success throughout the year.
Yeah. Well, there's only so much you can do, right? And I guess this is kind of like when a NHL team or pro team rebuilds, right? I mean, they got to start at some point,
Yeah.
and losing that many seniors, they're going to take a hit there. So it's
Yeah.
expected, I guess. Daniel, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
Was there anywhere when you signed on with Buffalo that you liked playing? Did you only play the New Jersey team when you were on Buffalo? Because I believe you said you played in the playoffs.
Yeah, I played the New Jersey team for 2 games, or I don't know if they're New Jersey, the Rivalettes, that's what they're called. And
Yeah,
then
it's in Central Jersey.
yeah, and then I played the Kinetic team that was like the first round of playoffs, which is where we got kicked out. So I played those 2 teams.
Now, how was it playing teams over in the States compared to Canada? Is it any different?
I honestly don't know. Like, I would think the speed is all the same. It's just I feel like some like teams have more skill than others. Like, just have individual players that have better skill. So like I don't really think there's an overall difference. It's like pretty much even throughout the league. But I just think like the individual player skills is what kind of stands out the most between the 2. So that would pretty much be it.
And then the only other question I had left was like, what style of play do you have? I know each hockey player usually is his own person. They do a certain style of play. What fits you?
I've said this in so many interviews as well, but like through my years of Merrimack, like I've had to switch like how like my different playing style. So like my first year, we were a new team, second year program, so we were like in our D zone a lot. So I had to like become basically another defenseman, like be more defensive. And then my second 2 years, we were more offense because now we had the experience and we had seniors and like so many of them that we were so offensively sound. And then my last year, like it was a total shift. Like I had to like be everything basically because there were so many freshmen coming in and they didn't know much. I had to like pretty much step up my game in every aspect. But I'd like to call myself a playmaker, but like from my points last year, you wouldn't think I was a playmaker because of how many goals I got and so little assists. But throughout my other 3 years, like I got more assists than goals. So it's like I kind of see myself like I change with the team that I'm playing with or the people that I'm playing with. Like I'm just like I would say a well-rounded player.
Which is good because for coaches and then management, they want to see a player that can adapt to new situations. And that's what they like, somebody that they can plug in and count on them to do what they want to do style-wise.
Mm.
Right on. So with that being said, we're going to take you to a very important question that I've got. It's Elimination Day. And as we were just briefly discussing before we went live, every team that could possibly be eliminated so far has been eliminated. You know where this is going. 9 minutes till puck drop. What happens tonight, Leafs and Columbus?
They have to win. There's no other response. Has to be a win today and then another win on Sunday. But then again, if they lose, I'm okay because they're not losing against Boston. That's the only team that they cannot lose against, and I'll be fine. So, like, either way, I'm good, but they have to win.
I mean, I can find a positive in this. If we lose, 12.5% chance of landing that first round pick, and boy, would that be something.
That would also be good.
If it makes you feel any better, we beat the Bruins 4-1 the other day. So
yeah, Daniel's a Philly fan. He's a Flyer.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the rest of the stuff with the night, just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us and for taking part in the show. Glad to have you on, and we look forward to seeing you in action, hopefully starting in January with Toronto.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Okay, Daniel. Elimination Day.
You know it.
Elimination Day. We saw between, I think last night, Calgary took out the Jets, and we both said that Laine had to step up, and he stepped out early.
Yep.
In game one and never came back. It's a very unfortunate thing for them.
Yeah.
Losing him and Scheifele was a pretty big deal for this team.
Yeah, it's pretty bummer for me since that was my sleeper team in the West. And right away, 2 minutes in, Scheifele gets hurt right away. They basically rule him out for the series. And then the third period of that said game, Patrick Laine joins him on the injury line, and he goes. And then they have somebody else go. It was just crazy. The only thing that could have made it worse was if Kyle Connors got hurt with them, and then it would have been just a trio right there, the top scorers on the bench. But I give them kudos though for at least pulling a win out and battling for a couple games, considering the fact that they had all those guys hurt.
Now, was it ever determined what happened? I know it was in a little mix-up that he had with Giordano.
Yes.
In the corner, but was it a broken wrist? Did he break his wrist?
That's why I thought, because originally I thought he hurt Giordano, but then you see him skating, but you could tell something was up, and then you see him go to the bench. They didn't really say too much, other than you could see that he was in pain, and
quite a bit.
I didn't look exactly what was up. I can look at it right now.
Yeah, and I was just trying to look it up, and it just says favoring his wrist during the shoving match at Giordano, but there's no determining factor. They didn't come out and say, yes, it was a broken wrist or a sprained wrist or whatnot, but I mean, enough for him to essentially miss the remainder of whatever.
Yeah, it says hand. It said sprained hand. That's what it says.
Sucks.
And it says, like, for a few days, it said unfit to practice.
Wow. So it wasn't even practicing with the
team.
So
I wonder if it was the hand that he holds the stick in, or if it was the hand that he has to use Because if it's the hand that he
It
has,
does make a difference, yeah.
yeah, because they'll make a big difference if he can't hold anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and as a result, Flames last night put them away, 3-1 series. Seems like that seems to be the magic number, even with today's results. That 3-1. So far, we haven't seen any games. Actually, no, we did see the sweep, and we'll get into that as well. So,
Yep.
we'll touch base on that later on. Arizona, Nashville, that one just ended today as well.
Yep.
And shocking. I honestly thought those goal lights. They're telling me to grab some buds. 5
Yeah.
game time.
Love it.
So Arizona, Nashville. I was not expecting Nashville to go out that soon. I thought this would at least go to 5 games. Didn't expect it to finish in 4, and Arizona seemed to really take control in this series.
And it's like I said, one of the guys I said need to play well was Darcy Camper, and he had a great series. And then you didn't really have anybody stand out on Arizona. It was a bunch of bounce scoring and attack where you had a bunch of guys with just one goal each game. It wasn't anybody like just pulling Arizona to the wins with like 3-4 goals on the series. It was like 1-1. It was like a team effort, which with their coach, I can see how, because that's been their game for the past 2 years is just team play.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens now, because technically that wasn't even the first round. That was just whatever they call it, the play-in round, right? So, I mean, with teams getting eliminated, and we'll get into that with a couple other teams later on in this, but, like today's game went to overtime and just Nashville couldn't figure it out. I thought after the second period, I thought they were actually going to take this game and force it out. But, yeah, like you said, Kemper was on his head, and essentially they ended up winning the game, and Phil Kessel scored a goal.
Yeah, he scored a goal. Somebody else?
I think he scored.
Grabner scored a goal.
Grabner's a beast. I actually really liked when he played for Toronto. Like, that guy has, for his age, he's ripped. He's a monster. And when he's on a breakaway, like, you're not taking him down.
Then you look at the game before, Soderberg, Garland, Dvorak scored. The game before that, I think it was when they lost, it was 2 different people. It was Keller and Kroos. So, like, they've had different guys score each time. It's never been the same person.
Yeah, they're
which you would like to have a guy that you like to have a guy when it matters that you can count on. But at the same time, if you can get that team effort and your goalie's playing well, you can't beat that either.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's something crazy, because, like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of potential firings, coaches getting canned with this. But then again, there's going to be a lot of blame put on their method and Gary Bettman's return to play plan with this whole playoff tournament and how it all shaped out. I know Pittsburgh's not going to be too happy. I know Edmonton wasn't too happy with even having to play in this. You know what I mean? Like, they finished ahead, but due to the whole win percentage thing that they used to determine seed, they found themselves outside that top 4 window.
Yeah, like I told you before, I wasn't really much of a fan of that because, win percentage-wise, they were below, but they still had more points, and you can't just say that Dallas was going to get a win in those 2 games that they made up.
Yeah, exactly. And that takes us to that series, the Edmonton-Chicago series. This could be another one of those upsets. Chicago's up 2-1 in the series. McDavid's doing what McDavid does. He's putting on a show. Unfortunately, Chicago is a playoff team. They're one of those teams that you can never count out.
Yep.
Taves and Kane, I mean, they know what to do. They're difference makers. And now this year they've got guys like DeBrincat, who makes a difference as well. And he adds a little bit of that. Not afraid to get in there.
And then the guy that stepped up this year, Kubanek, who in the first game had was it 2 goals, 1 or 2 goals, and has been making plays for him also. As a young guy, they have a young team now, and having Tees and Kane there, Kane has been a goal scorer his whole career, but now you got Taze, who said that he was going to play just to enjoy himself. He wasn't going to go too seriously, and he was just going to go through the moment and whatnot. That's been something that has inspired him, and he's been playing lights out since then.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
just
And I
look at
mean,
the
now
first-
that game is currently 2-1 Chicago after the first. Brendan Saad has a goal, and Highmore another goal for Chicago. And again, Highmore never knew who this guy was, and I think he scored 2 crucial goals for these guys already. So, I mean, it's still early. Edmonton's not one of those teams you can sleep on with a 2-1 lead. But
Yeah.
again, crazy. This one is another one of those series that could come to an end tonight. So we'll see what happens. That's the game that is currently on, and the Leafs
and it's on power play.
Vancouver, Minnesota. I'm not sure what to think about this series, really, to be honest, because it's 2-1 Vancouver.
Yeah.
I honestly thought Minnesota would be the team to win this series. I didn't think Brock Besser was going to be the Brock Besser that everybody saw during the season, but he's been doing well, and Pettersson has stepped up, and I believe he's one of the guys that you had mentioned early on that needed to, if he shows up, it's dangerous, right? And they dominated the game last night, taking it 3-0, shutting them out. So now it all comes down to them having the chance. They're up 2-1 in the series. They can easily put this one away and advance. And I think Vancouver hasn't gone far in the playoffs since I think it was the year they made to the finals and they lost.
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe that was the case. And for Minnesota, I love how Stalock has been in goal. He's been playing well. It's just that everybody else has been mediocre. You really don't have a guy that is stepping up for them. Like, you had a guy that they were high on in Eriksson Ek, and he's not playing to his capability. But then on the other side, I think after game 1 where Pettersson got brutally just manhandled by Minnesota, I remember they went to the refs and they were like, you can't let Minnesota do this. They're just bumping on him and pressing on him. He's going to get hurt if this keeps happening. So then I guess the refs were like, we're going to allow it. You can do it if you want. So then Vancouver started doing it back. And then it's been noticed because they've been more physical since then, protecting Pettersson, and then they've been scoring at the same time.
Yep. And that brings us to the next series, which is my favorite one, Blue Jackets, Leafs. I am so happy that this show did not take place last night, because I probably would have had to issue a letter of apology this morning because I would have lost it on the air. It is a bittersweet thing to be a Leafs fan. I thought they started the game great. Sheldon Keefe felt otherwise. He felt the game got away from them in the first period. I thought they played a great 40 minutes of hockey. After that, I'm not sure what I saw. Well, I'll tell you what I saw. I saw what I see every year in the playoffs. I saw what I see every time it comes down to must-win situations where they really need to hold on to win a game. And they blew it. They fell apart. You can't blame Anderson for any of it. I honestly think that the team left him out to dry. You got to have consistency with your performers. And outside of a one-timer hitting, I think, the post early on in the game, Austin Matthews has not hit a one-timer, which is his thing. He should, and I don't understand why he's not. It looks as if he's playing with a shorter stick. He has whiffed on more one-timers than I can count. He's broken a couple sticks. It seems like he's not finding his spot every time they try to set up. The pass is in his feet. It's not on the tape. And it's almost like they're a nervous bunch the way they've been playing. Last night burns. It stings a lot, especially because the guy who pretty much single-handedly beat them last night is the same guy who cross-checked Muzzin and took him out of the series. And no call on the play, no disciplinary action. They called it a hockey play. I feel like if that was Nazem Kadri, we'd be having a different conversation, and he'd probably be suspended for the playoffs. But I'm not going to make excuses. It sucks, and tonight's a must-win. There's no argument, no questions asked. They must win tonight, or that's it.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to come on tonight because I didn't want to feel the wrath of you. I told you last night after that happened, I was like, I'm gonna have to hide now, because I remember it was like, what was it? It was like 3-1 in the third, going in the third, and I'm like, they should have this, and then all of a sudden 3-3, like 15 minutes later, and it's all because they have no defense. It's like they have 5 offensive players, and then no one comes back to just play defense. You got to play defense in order to win, because you can't count on being the Rangers from 5 years ago where they had Lundqvist in goal, 5 defenders, and he can stop everything. Because that's too much pressure on a goalie like Anderson.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said last week, where if you let it go up early or when you're up, he can lose confidence right away because he has to do too much. Even if you had one guy stay back and he takes some of the pressure off of him, that'll have a word of like a difference for a guy like Anderson. That he can count on at least one guy. Well, right now he can't count on anybody to protect the blue line.
Yeah, I mean, you can't play Morgan Rielly the entire game, and Muzzin is a big part of that puzzle to be missing tonight, and for the rest of the series, whatever happens beyond tonight. But they need to bounce back. I mean, tonight Columbus is going with Elvis in net. Merzlikins wasn't really tested much last night when he got put in after the Leafs chased. What's his name? I don't even know the name of their goalie again.
Corpus
Korpisalo there. So they chased him, and you think, fresh goalie coming in cold, pepper the guy, and they couldn't. It took them, I don't even know how long to get a shot on, and it wasn't even that much of a threatening shot. So they did have a few chances to finish it, and they just lucky bounces. He was just positionally in the right place, and that's why even towards the end of the season, this Merzlikins guy was stealing games for them. Like, he positionally plays well. He knows where he's at. It's like he's aware of his surroundings, and he makes those saves. And some of them are just unbelievable. When you see the replays, you're thinking, how did that not go in? And I don't want to have those moments tonight. I'm hoping that the Leafs find the net early and fast and often, because Foligno is another guy. He's going to keep getting under their skin, and the refs are not really calling much. I'm noticing in all the series, a lot of what normally would be penalties in the season are not really getting called for the playoffs. And I mean, sometimes you kind of need that, let them play, but you got to be consistent. Like, stick to the back of the numbers is a cross check. There's no argument there. And I've seen some dirty hits in some other series that haven't been called, and it blows my mind. I mean, there's putting your whistle away, and then there's just not even calling a thing, and you got to do it. Not that the Leafs power play is performing anywhere near where it should, considering the line they have. 0 for 5, I think 2 games in a row now. It's embarrassing. And again, because it comes down to their power play setup has been analyzed. Every team knows it. They're going to look for Matthews open in the faceoff circle and have him take that quick shot and that quick release. They don't use their defensemen enough. I mean, look at Montreal. Look at what they're doing. Shea Weber is doing what Shea Weber does. Shots from the point. He's got a clapper, and it worked, and he scored again today. So we'll see what happens. I don't want to waste too much time talking about this. I can feel my blood pressure rising. So we'll take it to the next series here. This one we saw, it ended pretty early. Rangers, Carolina. Carolina swept the Rangers. There was a picture going around the other day that actually made me feel bad of Lundqvist sitting in his chair sobbing. He almost looks like he's ready to cry, as if he's contemplating his career. I think this may have been his last season, whether he asks for a trade or he simply retires. I don't know.
Well, as we speak, just during your 2-minute rant about your Maple Leafs, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins scored a goal for the Oilers, so that game's tied up at 2. and I think it was a power play goal. But on to put on top of what you were just saying, it was just very bizarre. I didn't think Lundqvist should have been in goal to begin with. I kind of think they did it just because they knew it was going to be the last time he suited up, so they did it kind of for him. And as a team, you shouldn't do that if he's not the best chance to win. I felt like it should have been Georgiev in until Shesterkin was ready to go, and then they put Shesterkin in I believe it was game 3 when he was ready, which is kind of funny because they interviewed Shesterkin and they asked him who he looked up to as like an idol, and he said Henrik Lundqvist was the guy he looked up to player wise, and just so happens he's the guy that took over. He's the guy that's going to take over for Lundqvist now. And I thought they did a little bit better with him, but I'm surprised that I didn't see enough out of Panarin in this series, considering he got all that money in the off season.
Yep. So it's safe to say, I think, and they have a bad problem in net, even with Lundqvist not being there, if that ends up being the case with Shesterkin and Georgiev. Two solid goalies who can very easily split the season without a problem. So I think New York's not in a bad position. They're out, and again, hey, they got a 12.5% chance at landing Lafreniere, right? So this may not be too bad for them. Sucks to go out 3-0, but it's something they can look to building next season. However that season goes, I'm not even sure what their plan is there.
It's just these teams need to go into the off season and address needs. Like, even if somehow Toronto were to get eliminated, they need to do. They got the blueprint from the Flyers, what they did. Just bring in some veteran guys and then go with young guys behind them, and you can develop while at the same time have guys that know what they're doing. Because the Flyers were the same way. They had guys up top that could score, but they couldn't play defense. They always gave up. And then once we did that, then it was a lot better.
Yep. So we're going to do this now because we can. And as we do, we'll continue.
Because of how many mistakes they make right now. Watching the game yesterday, I saw at least 8 mistakes that the Capitals made where just they got caught slipping and the Flyers just would skate past them, and then the defender would have to grab them and get an interference call, and then the Flyers would just go on the power play. And then one of the great things that I've seen so far out of the Flyers has been Kevin Hayes on the power play, just being patient, looking for the open guy. And then yesterday he had a nice look finding Scott Laughton, who turned around and then just put in the back of the net. And then, because usually we have Provorov that runs the point, but then yesterday they went back and forth running the point, going to each other. And for the first time in a while, I'm seeing a Flyers team actually doing really good with its line passing. Because usually I see the team and they don't pass well. It's just you get it to your star player, score, yada yada. But now we have more of a complete team where you see the guys passing fluidly back and forth, and it's a great thing to see for the first time in like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because even on the team where we made the shocking run to the finals against Chicago, we didn't pass well. It's just we had a lot of individual play, and now I'm ready to see how we do once you get into the actual playoffs. If we can continue this stretch that we're on, dating back to before the pandemic, where we were 9-1 in the last 10 games, and now we're 3-0 since then, counting the exhibition.
Yeah, and it's, what do we got here? The Hawks and Oilers are tied at 2 after 2.
Yep.
Leaf says we all saw are down 1-0 after the first. They had such a good chance at the very beginning when Merzlikins lost his stick and Marner wrapped it around. I don't know how he didn't bury that.
Yeah.
But the late game is Vancouver and Minnesota. So we got, so then after that it'll be determined. But I honestly, I'm not liking that first period for Toronto. Somehow, I believe Yeah, they outshot Columbus 15-13. I don't even recall seeing 5 shots, but I mean, hey, someone's counting them. But that wasn't, in my opinion, much of a first period. Which, hey, if that's the 20 minutes they decided to not play tonight, I'm okay with that because that means they'll play better the second and the third.
Yeah, and they're only down 1-0, so you can score a goal and then out early, and all of a sudden it's 1-1.
I have to repost this comment here because this is crazy. This is what happens when you spend too much time indoors. He is claiming the Montreal Canadiens are going to win the Stanley Cup. Igor.
Hey, I will say this. When we went to the finals as the 7th seed, do you remember who the 8th seed was? It was the Canadiens.
Was it?
Yeah. Who we took out 4-1 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then that led to us losing in 6 to Chicago.
Yeah.
Because the Eastern Finals was a 7th seed against the 8th seed.
I won't take away from Montreal. I mean, they're getting productivity from the players, the unlikely players. Jeff Petry's been lights out for them. Drouin's doing what he was expected to do. Weber's playing, stepping up to his game, and Carey Price is stopping pucks. So I mean, they're doing what they need to do as a team. We haven't seen anything crazy out of Max Domi. Brendan Gallagher's been somewhat quiet, and Nick Suzuki. So I mean, I think those are 3 players that can only get better as the series advances. So if they now, I mean, they got past Pittsburgh. So now if those 3 guys step up moving forward into the first round of the actual playoffs, then you can't count them out. I mean, that's my sleeper for the year. I'm going to say my underdog story for these playoffs has to be Montreal in the East with Chicago in the West. And only because I feel like Chicago they're a consistent playoff team, but I feel like they weren't expected to go far considering they got Edmonton in this play-in round. But again, experience goes to show that it doesn't matter how young and how fast the team may be. If the team is experienced like Chicago, I think they've got a really good opportunity there. Austin.
Not now, Austin.
I'm just kidding on this one.
Sorry for getting on here late. Yeah, definitely late, all right. But thanks for tuning in, man.
So I guess we can start wrapping things up. As always, we've got all sorts of stuff going on at AEE. Starting with, are you back this weekend?
Yep, Sunday at the usual 11 a.m. lineup. We're going to basically review the last couple of days because the Europa League and Champions League both restarted back up on Thursday. So we'll be going through that. We're going to discuss the transfers and the signings from the past week in the summer. We got a bunch of moves that have been made in the English Premier League. And then we're going to just touch up on the Federation Cup from last week between Arsenal and Chelsea. And yeah, it won't be too crazy like usual because it's not like a full slate of games. And we just got a few things to talk to, but we're going to get through that and then that's going to be what it's going to be like for the next 2-3 weeks before we get to the 3-week off season because the regular season starts back up in the middle of September.
Mm-hmm.
And then also next Friday, Thursday or Friday, I haven't decided yet. I'm going to do the second episode of Cage of My IQ because we got the big UFC pay-per-view next week. So I think I'm going to have Drew on, and then my buddy's supposed to pop on too. So we're at 3 people. We're going to go over the pay-per-view and then just discuss who we think are going to win, what's coming up in the UFC. And then I'm also working on getting another interview. I'm working on that right now. It's in the works. So hopefully I'll be able to shed some details on that soon.
Just to touch base on soccer again, because I follow that. Today we had couple Champions League games, and Juventus beat Lyon 2-1, and Man City beat Real Madrid 2-1. Now, was that because I see it shows 2-2 on the aggregate with Juventus and Lyon? So would they not have gone to the shootout?
The way that usually works in this format is you play two games. A game both teams get to get at home, and say if it's 2-2, the team that had more away goals advances.
Yeah, the aggregate rule, right? So that's why I'm wondering. Yeah. It says Lyon advanced on a 2-2, so I guess they advanced on the away goals.
Yes. So the only way that they were to keep playing and then possibly going to a shootout is if the away goals is the same.
Right, they would have had to tie in the away goals.
Like say both teams won 2-0 at home, that would be 2-2.
Yeah.
But since neither of them met, they go into extra time. And if they do the extra time, no one scored, then they go into a shootout.
Big upset with Man City taking out Real Madrid. Wow.
It's not much of a.
It was much of an upset, man. Real Madrid hasn't been doing much.
Because it's really like they're on the same level to me. Because Man City has a great team, and they just fell off a little bit because Liverpool was just so great this year. And it's kind of funny that they're so great, yet they got knocked out of the Champions League like a little early than you expected from a team that great. But it happens. And what was it? And actually, soon when I got off here, speaking of Cage My IQ, I'm going to be watching Bellator in a little bit. I'm gonna watch that and go through that and the two NHL games.
Okay, yeah, and that's probably what I'm gonna go do right now, and hopefully I won't be angry about it by the end of the night. So you've got your Stand Your Ground Sunday at 11. We've got the boys at Whiskey Cinema Sunday at 8 p.m.
Speaking of Eagle, he said, "Hey Daniel, what's your take on Sean O'Malley?" I don't want to take too much time off on this, but Sugar Sean O'Malley, he actually came out of the Contender Series, and which I'm watching now every Tuesday. But he has a lot of potential. He kind of reminds me of Conor McGregor, but with his flashiness, he's just very unpredictable, and his game is very good. And if he can keep this hype going, because he's going to be the co-main event next week, you could see him in a title fight in the next 2 years.
Right on. Sorry, just back to this. Okay, so yeah, we got these shows. So Whiskey Cinema is Sunday 8 p.m. Game Winning Drive, the NFL Dudes, Monday at 8:30 p.m. Then we got The Boardroom with Josh Tuesday at 8 p.m. He goes through pretty much all your sports other than hockey. He does promise to watch some more hockey. He wants to get involved and maybe be part of the show one day. So that is Tuesday nights. And then after that, he's got another show on Wednesdays with Anthony. And if you like wrestling, catch the last episode of Wednesday Night War. I promise you will not be disappointed. There is a rant that Anthony goes on at one point, and it is epic. It is one for the ages.
And they actually cut it up on YouTube. It's like a 30-minute clip. I know that's long, but you won't be disappointed if you listen to it and watch it. It's on there.
I mean, if you don't want to watch it, you can listen to it either way. It is incredible. And you know what? The guy's right. He's got a point. It's all about marketing. We know wrestling is a big marketing thing, and he's got a point. And I mean, his argument is strong. And I don't watch wrestling anymore as much as I used to when I was younger, but he's definitely got a point, and he's very passionate about it. So make sure you listen to that. Check it out. And then Josh returns with RSH along with Chuck Winchester on Thursday at 6 p.m. And then I'm back here again on Friday, 7:30 p.m. Hopefully not in morning, and hopefully with something good to cheer for. Otherwise, I'm going to be pretty bitter. And all this might be in a box, and you might not see any of these hanging behind me. But yeah, so I'll be back here Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Going through this again. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in, guys. Once again, Daniel, thank you very much for joining me. Go Leafs, go! Catch you guys next week.
Go Flyers.
See ya.
See ya.